Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Hub. I'm your host Will Haroldson and alongside me are my partners Brody Kupsky and Ashton Parker. We know it's been a while, so we have a lot of catching up to do. Let's dive right into it when we come back. Pointers baseball team had a successful weekend, winning 3 out of their 4 matchups against UW-La Crosse. After dropping the first game 6-12, the Pointers went on to win their next 3 games 15-14, 2-0, and 13-3. So guys, they really showed some resilience after taking that first game on the chin. What exactly did they show you after they were able to bounce back and win those next 3 games?
They showed me really that offense is one of the best in the nation. You know, even after taking out, even in the such cold temperatures that was this weekend, they were still able to score double-digit runs in 2 of the 4 games in the weekend, and even the loss they scored 6, which is not bad. And you know, overall their offense is really just, like I said, it's the best part of the game. It's the best, and they're fantastic at it.
Right, it's been carrying them. And something that's kind of interesting is what a lot of people may not know with college baseball is a lot of the conference games are always double headers. So they'll get 4 games in a weekend, and the second game of Saturday's doubleheader actually had to be played Sunday morning because it got too late outside. But that's kind of an interesting scenario where you have to finish a game and then play 2 others in that day. But to Ashton's point, the offense has really been carrying this team right now.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Looking at the stats right here, Lucas Ludke is averaging .382, which is pretty solid for a baseball player. I mean, if you're averaging about almost 400, that's really, really good. And I totally agree that the hitting has been pretty solid. I went to the last game on Sunday. It was a 3 o'clock game. Besides it being windy and overall hard to sit through, they looked phenomenal on the offensive side.
Absolutely. Anytime you put up 13 runs and only allow 3, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But their next game is this Wednesday. They'll be heading over to De Pere to take on St. Norbert. Are there any, things that you would say that they have to, because baseball is a really difficult sport. You can't exactly say, hey, do this better, because one day a pitcher can give up 10 runs, and the next day the pitcher can give up, he'll throw out a no-hitter. So what are any like advice or stuff that you think that they need to get done?
Honestly, I feel like what they need to do the most is fix up. I think the thing that can benefit them the most immediately is fix up their fielding. And I feel like if they start fixing up that fielding, start fixing up their defense a bit more, then have it fix that up as quick as they can. Then focus on the pitching for long term. Then overall, and if your offense is if the offense is still going to be like that and still produce double-digit runs on each game, I feel like overall it would work out the best in the long run.
True, but just to some extent, you can have an offense that can put up as many runs as you can. You need to have good pitching if you want to go to a national championship.
I definitely agree with that. But to Ashton's point, the defense does need to clean up a little bit. Like when I was watching the game, 7th inning of the second game on Sunday, or rather the second inning of the actual doubleheader on Sunday, 7th inning, they're up 12-3. All right, starting out pretty easy. Next inning, you score a run and you win the game. Well, 2 outs, easy ground balls to them. I mean, misplayed. It was routine.
Those are fundamental plays you got to make.
I mean, routine ground ball to second base. You got to be ready and scoop it up, throw it to first, and move on. But the pitching will come. I mean, it is cold. It's not the same as being down in Florida and 90-degree heat. We're up here in Wisconsin. It's 50 on a good day.
Yeah.
So the pitching will clean up, I think.
That's definitely something that's a necessity, because I saw in a few of the games, especially in Saturday's second game of the doubleheader, which they finished on Sunday morning, they were up 14-11 at the top of the 9th and gave up a 3-run home run to tie the game. They went on to win in extra innings the next morning, but nonetheless, getting in those scenarios where you can close out a game and you're not able to, that's got to be a real gut punch. Well, like we said again, they'll be heading over to De Pere to take on St. Norbert this Wednesday. We're going to take a short break, and when we'll come back, we'll dive into some Pointer softball, so don't go away. the Pointers softball team has hit a little bit of a slump as of late, going 2-4 in their last 6 matchups. Pointers got out to a scorching hot 7-0 record, but are now 15-9. So guys, what do the Pointers have to do to right the ship here? Because they were just flying high in the beginning of the season. I don't want to say that their wheels fell out from under them, but they've definitely kind of lost their steam that they had earlier in the beginning of the year.
It's hard to tell because I haven't personally seen the game yet. They really haven't played home games. Maybe that's the difference. They haven't played at a home crowd. Currently, right now, looking at the stats for UWSP softball, Maddie Condre is averaging .472 at the plate, which is pretty solid. But think about it.
I'll say so.
It's hard to tell how they're going to do at home compared to away. So I feel like maybe they get to a home game and have that home crowd cheering them on. I feel like they'll do pretty good.
Yeah, I have to agree with him on this one because you take a look at, you go to their schedule, and you see that they've played 4 games away, and all the other games have been played in a neutral site. And you really start to think about, how much does home field advantage really matter? And honestly, in this case, if it was in Florida, fine, because everyone's in, different temperature, different place, everyone's in a different place. However, once we start to get to neutral sites back in Wisconsin, then things start to get a little more rocky. And I feel like, eventually they're going to play a game in Stevens Point. When? I'm not entirely sure. Weather seems to be clearing up a little bit as of late, and I'm hoping it starts to get a little better. It gets a little better in the next couple weeks to follow, so we can get a couple games. So, but yeah, as you said, I think having that home field is going to be important.
Absolutely. They're 0-2 in conference to start the WIAC conference season, but at 0-2, you're only 2 games in. You got plenty of time left. They did have a lot of games canceled, rescheduled, so maybe just kind of going to games on the fly and just not really having time to prep and get practice in. Maybe that has to do something with it. But let's get back to the point of starting off 7-0 and then really just being about 500 from that point out. It's how, I don't want to say demoralizing, but like how frustrating can that be when you're like, oh, we're playing at such a high level, but now look at where we are.
Oh, it's very frustrating. I mean, personal experience, like playing sports. If you start out good, you think, well, we're on top of the world. But now if you're sitting at 500, we're like, well, we have to start getting better. They will find it, I believe. They have the players to do good. I mean, their second batter, in terms of average, is averaging .444. I mean, you have 2 players who are averaging over 400. I mean, over 430 even is insane. I mean, granted, we're only, about
24 games.
24 games in. I mean, yeah, that's a huge amount, but it does make a difference once you start getting into the warmer months. In Wisconsin, that is.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. That temperature difference is huge going from March to May, and it really does affect an athlete's body. When they're playing outside too. And yeah, from personal experience, from starting off really well and then kind of faltering off a little bit, what I found is that really you just need to take time and just reset and just regroup, as they would say. And if you just take the time and just calm down, figure out what's working, and then just fix a couple of things that it doesn't have to be everything right away, just fix a couple of things that are not working out as well. Then you'll start to see gradual improvement, and you'll start to see that hot start. You'll start to see them starting to get hotter and hotter, and eventually you'll end off the season really well. And like you said earlier, they've only played 2 conference games, so they still have a lot. They have a lot left to go in the season. So I think that's my take on that.
There's a lot left in the season, that's for sure. And I think to the point of there's 2 batters hitting over 400. It's like the old saying in the MLB: you can hit about only 250 and make the Hall of Fame.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
It's hitting 400 is a little ridiculous, but to your guys' point, you can be hitting that well. Eventually, there's going to be wins that come your way if you're hitting that well. Pitching, it'll maybe just be the one thing that they have to get into to right the ship. We are going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into a brand new segment we like to call 3 Things You Need to Know in Sports. So don't go away, because we'll be right back.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
Welcome back to the Sports Hub, and welcome to 3 things you need to know in sports. First, we'll get the sad news out of the way first. This past weekend, the Big Ten football community lost 2 legends. On Saturday, former Ohio State standout quarterback Dwayne Haskins was killed on Saturday attempting to cross a Florida interstate. Haskins, the 2018 Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, set records for single-season touchdowns, passing yards, and total offensive yards. To this day, Haskins' impact on the Ohio State program is large. Former Dallas Cowboy and Wisconsin Badger running back coach Gary Brown passed away at the age of 52 Sunday. Brought onto the Badgers coaching staff in 2021, Brown is responsible for helping produce the freshman sensation Braylon Allen. So guys, let's pause there for a second and talk about the impact of those 2 guys right there. Dwayne Haskins, obviously, he was a star in his sole year as a starter for Ohio State and struggled a little bit in the NFL, but really sad to see a guy go at 24 years old.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter how much someone struggles in the NFL. Losing anybody at the age of 24 is tragic. It doesn't deserve. No one deserves for that to happen. And like you said earlier, his impact on the Ohio State football team still is felt to this day. He was so good in 2018. Like, watching him was magical in that year. And like I said, who cares about how he did in the NFL?
Right.
It's no one deserves to lose a life
right.
at that age.
And Gary Brown, losing him really hurts because really made a connection with Ches Malusi and Braylon Allen as the running backs coach. So it's always hard to see a guy who you look up to as a mentor really lose him. It's really got to hurt the team.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, he had to sit out of the Las Vegas Bowl. He couldn't travel because he had to get the cancer treatment, and it's hard losing somebody to cancer. I mean, I don't have experience with it, but I do have a relative that has cancer right now, and it's very hard to see them go through the pain and suffering. I mean, it must be hard for his family too.
Right.
I mean, he had all these years of great coaching. I mean, you have 2 guys right now, Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi. I mean, they're amazing, and then, I mean, what he has taught them, I mean, it's pretty much
2 guys that'll probably be playing on Sundays, I'm imagining. But our condolences go out to both Haskins and Gary and Brown family. Second, in more upbeat news, the Milwaukee Bucks have their first-round matchup for the 2022 NBA playoffs. The reigning champions, Milwaukee Bucks, will be taking on the Chicago Bulls. The Bucks in the regular season went 4-0 against the Bulls with emphatic wins. So quickly, guys, let's talk about this matchup. I know we don't want to focus on the past. Going 4-0 against a division rival has to give you just massive amount of confidence going into the playoffs.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel much more confident going into this one than if we were a 2nd seed and possibly going against either Brooklyn or Cleveland. Now, if it was Cleveland, that's okay. I'm now another division rival, and we've done well against them in the past too. We did lose to them in the regular season finale, but we did bench the starters for that one, and we did help them get secure the 7-8 play instead of the 9-10. So you're welcome for that. However, going against Brooklyn, if we would have to go against Brooklyn in the first round, that'd be an incredibly hard series to start off the playoffs with. Because even if they're the 7th seed right now, Brooklyn is still a scary team because they had over half a season without Kyrie, and now they're just starting to get Kyrie back into the full rotation because, if I'm correct, New York lifted the vaccine mandate a few weeks ago. So now he's able to play at home games too. So I feel much more confident going with the Bulls because we have more success against the Bulls.
Without question. I'll kind of pick your brain about it too, because you go 4-0 against any team, you're going to have supreme confidence, but you don't want to have too much. You don't want to be cocky going into something, right? Because that could bite you in the butt.
I totally agree with that. We talk about what happened during those series, like Grayson Allen, hurting Alex Caruso, and I feel like the Bulls will have that edge. They'll try to beat the Bucks, but the Bucks go 4-0 against a team, and I mean, if they stay consistent, they should just steamroll them.
Right.
That's the key word, though. Stay consistent.
consistency is definitely an important thing, and I talk with a lot of people who watch the Bucks, and I think there's a broad consensus that if the Bucks are playing to their best and they have all their healthy pieces, there's not a team in the NBA that could beat them in 7 games.
Oh, I agree, 100%.
And so I think the path right back to the NBA Finals is there again, but I don't know, something about this Bulls team scares me a bit, because anytime you beat a team 4-0 in the regular season, or anytime you've beaten somebody previously, they have that edge on, that revenge edge.
That's a fair thought to have, because the reason why the Bulls are still a super scary team. DeMar DeRozan's playing his mind off right now. He is so good. You have I'm trying to remember Lonzo Ball.
He's out for the rest of the season.
He's out the season.
Though.
Correct. Because I know they are dealing with some injuries right now as well. So they have that kind of fallback too, is they have some injuries to some really key players right now. But it's also very important to remember, it's not just that the Bulls didn't do well against the Bucks. They've done poorly against everyone.
Yeah, top seeds in both conferences. I think they were 0-15 against.
I think until
last night. I think when they went against the Celtics, but it's not a good record. But something that'll help the Bucks too is with it being a Milwaukee-Chicago playoff series. It's hop on a train, get on the interstate, go right down to Chicago, go up to Milwaukee. It's going to be there's going to be neutral fans every game.
Oh yeah,
there's going to be plenty of guys for both teams. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great series. And then lastly, the Milwaukee Brewers started off the season rather slow. Guys, what are the keys to get back on track? Because that was a really ugly series against the Chicago Cubs.
Well, I got to say, the pitching is the problem. I am shocked. Yup. Corbin Burns had a pretty decent outing.
It was all right.
Gave up a few runs, but, he didn't do as bad as Woodruff.
Oh, God.
I mean, Brandon Woodruff, he's a solid pitcher, really good two-guy, but, currently right now, as I'm looking at the stats before the game today against the Orioles is over, Brandon Woodruff has let me look at this, a 17.18 ERA.
Shit.
Beautiful. But, along with that, you also got to hit well. Which the Brewers really haven't been doing. They have a couple guys that can hit. They have guys that can get on base. Jace Peterson, really good walk guy. He really can look at the ball and get on base.
That's why we call him on base Jace.
There you go.
I think that win, though, in the final game of the series, obviously there was one canceled due to the weather, so they're going to do a doubleheader someday in June. But I think getting a win at the very end in a series where you looked, I'm going to be honest, they looked bad.
It was rough.
They looked bad, especially towards the ends of that first game. That entire second game, they looked horrible. And then they actually looked decent in this final game.
Yeah.
And so I think to your guys' point, we were talking about pitching, this is something that they're going to have. But I know it's early in the season. There's 162 games to play. There's 162 games in the season. They've already played 3 games, but 159 left. So there's definitely a lot of time, but still you want to see them. They want to see them not lose 9-0 in the second game of the regular season.
Yeah, we want to see the Brewers get off to a strong start, so we have a good feeling about the season coming ahead. At least with winning the last game, okay, we went off. We struggled in the first couple of games, but hey, we came out with a dub. That's fine. But it's still starting off 1-2. Brewers. It's also, remember this. It's Wrigley Field in April. That field always sucks to play in April. And also, the Brewers, historically, have never done well in opening series. Look at last season too. I think they lost to the Twins in opening series too. I think they got swept by them too. It was bad. So I think it's to your point. It's very important to say that it's just the beginning of the season. Let's calm down a little bit. They might have had some bad pitching performances. They still have on a regular basis, not on a good day, on a regular basis. Their 3 starting pitchers can do fantastic. Peralta, Burns, Woodruff. They can all do fantastic. So I think it's really just important to say, let's calm down. It's just a series. Move on ahead into the next series.
Absolutely. You got anything else to add to that?
Well, actually, you know what? I am very shocked. Christian Yelich is now hitting the ball.
Yes.
According to the stats before today's game against the Orioles, Monday, April 11th, he is hitting 375. which is a big shocker. I mean, compared to what he has been doing the last few seasons.
Yeah,
I'm very proud of him.
Good
We're
for
also
him.
early in the season.
it's
so
the
good for him.
the 2018 Christian Yelich is the guy who we want, and
That's the guy where
in mid 2019 before he got injured, he was still playing to such a high level. After that, he just hasn't been himself yet. So getting him up to speed, that's definitely something the Brewers need. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of the Sports Hub. Make sure you guys tune in to all of our other content here at SPTV. We want to thank you all again for watching, and we'll see you next time.